जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। हम
अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो,
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बात
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। स्वयं बने, हम
Hello to all the learners and viewers of NIUS. I, Dr. Piyush Prasad, Academic Officer Accountancy, welcome you in our video program of NIUS. As a student of accountancy, by this time you have already learned the meaning of accountancy, various terminologies that are going to use in accountancy, meaning of accounting equations and its treatment side by side the double entry system of bookkeeping, and you are able to recognize the different type of accounts and what are the rules and regulations we are going to apply related with those things. Keeping in view that thing in our mind, now it's the time that we are going to record these transactions in our very first primary book of accounting, which is known as a journal. Now the things as have been done or discussed, that you know that accounts can be classified into the real, personal, nominal as per traditional concept of accounting, as well as according to the modern concept of accounting, the accounts can be classified into the 5 different categories as assets, liabilities, capital, expenses and incomes. By this time you have already learned that what will be the treatment of these accounts, what are the rules and regulations of these accounts, as well as you are able to classify the different transactions into the different type of accounts. Now the thing is that how a particular transaction is going to be recorded in the books of account. The very first book or a basic book of accounting is known as a journal. Today this is going to be the topic of our discussion. For this very purpose we have invited in our studio Dr. Yadav, who is a head of the department from Government PG College Badalpur. Sir, I welcome you in our studio.
Thank you.
Learners, today we are going to discuss the meaning of journal entries, what is going to be the format, how the transactions are going to be recorded into the format of journal entries, what is going to be the narration. This is all going to be explained to you in detail so that it can be helpful to you while you are going to record the transactions in your very first basic book of accounting. Sir, the very first thing which our learners would like to know is the meaning of journal entries. What is exactly this journal?
Hello viewers, journal is the book of original entry because we originally record the entry into the journal. We also call journal as a day book because day-to-day transactions are recorded in the journal. It is a book of primary record, the book in which all business transactions are recorded for the first time is known as journal.
So it is going to be one of the very basic and primary book of accounting in which all the transactions are recorded initially in a chronological order, irrespective whether they belong to a particular type of account or not, but all the transaction date wise are recorded in the book, and that book is known as to be the journal. So what is going to be the format, or what are the different columns in a journal?
There are 5 columns in the journal. First is date, the second is particulars, next is ledger folio LF, next is amount debit, and the last is amount credit. So there are 5 columns in journal.
Sir, as we have said that there are going to be 5 different columns in a format of a journal. Our learners would like to know that what is going to be the use of each and every column and how the transactions are going to be recorded in each and every column.
Viewers, as I told earlier, date is the first column of journal. In date, we have to write the number of year in which transaction is going on. Year is written only once. Thereafter, we write the name of month in which the transaction is going on. Thereafter, we write the dates in which actually transaction is done. The next column is particulars. In particulars, we write first what is the debit thing. Suppose we have purchased furniture, then furniture will be debited. So we write furniture account debit. The next line is credit. Previous entry we write cash account. And in third line we write narration. Narration is the gist of entry. The next column is ledger folio, because after journal we have to post it all these entry into ledger. So in that column we have to write ledger folio, in which folio the both particular items has entered.
So you have shown as LF in the format of the journal. So LF is going to be the short form of ledger folio.
Ledger folio.
Then how do we write the amount?
Amount.
In the 2 different columns, as we have mentioned, there are going to be 5 columns. So what is going to be the column number 4 and 5?
4 and 5. The fourth column is debit amount. In this column we have to write amount debit, and the last column we write the amount credit.
So what is the way of writing the debit and credit? Is there any specific format, or we are going to write the full DEBIT debit करके और C credit
No, we write in entry debit in short, D capital and R is small.
Okay, okay. And the same way is
And
going to be adopted for the credit,
credit.
that C is going to be the capital
Capital
one and
and
R is going to be the small one. Okay. So what are the basic features of journal?
The basic features of journal are as follows. First is journal is the book of primary and originally record, because we said earlier it is a book of primary record and the entry is originally recorded in the journal. The next is journal is the subsidiary book. It is very important part of subsidiary book. The third is business transaction are first recorded in the journal. All the entries are first recorded in journal, then they are posting in other accounts. Usually a journal contains 5 columns, as I told earlier.
Now the learners, we have came to know the meaning of journal. Side by side we have came to know the format which we are going to use in preparing the journal, what is going to be the narration and what are the items to be written or the way we have to show the items in the different columns of the journal. As well as we have came to know the features of the journal. Now the question arises, if someone is going to pass the entries, what procedure he or she is going to follow to record the transactions in the journal. So what are the procedure, or is there any specific steps or sequence to record the transaction? If it is so, please explain.
In process of journalizing, we have to take only 2 points. One is identify the account. Second is apply the rules of debit and credit.
Sir, as you have said, there are going to be 2 different steps. First of all, we have to identify a specific account, what are the accounts are there in a specific transaction, and then you say that we have to find out what are the rules and regulations that are going to apply in this. Can you quote these or can you explain these 2 points with the help of an example, that how the accounts are going to be identified and how we are going to apply the rule of debit and credit?
Okay. Suppose we are purchasing furniture. That means there are 2 accounts will affected. One is furniture and the other is cash. Now we identify that what are the category of asset. The real account is the category of these both asset, because both are the asset. So we apply the rule of real accounts in this category. The rule of real account is debit what comes in and credit what goes out. So furniture comes in, so the entry will be furniture account debit, and goes out, what goes out, cash goes out, so cash account will be credited.
Okay.
So entry will be furniture account debit, cash account.
Now our learners would like to know what are the basic entries, as they have came to know that there is going to be the rule. First of all, they have to identify the account and then they have to apply the rule of a debit and credit, and then the entry will be passed. What are the entries they are going to pass whenever the business is going to be started, or at the time of starting a business? What can be the different possibilities towards a student for passing the entries?
Starting a business is the important thing, and first entry will be going on for this category. So we divided this starting of business in 2 parts. One is business started with cash only. The entry will be cash account debit to capital account. And the second category is you started the business with cash, bank and some other assets. Then the entry will be cash account debit, bank account debit, assets account debit to capital account.
As you have mentioned, there is going to be word to capital. So is it compulsory for us to write the word to at the time of recording a credit, or it is optional?
It is optional, because we have 2 accounts basically. One is traditional account and the other is modern accounting. In traditional accounting we have to use to for credit, and in modern accounting it is not necessary and not written actually to a word.
So once the mention is debit in one of the item, it is understood that the second item also is going to be a credit one. Now as we have told, in case of starting a business there can be 2 different possibilities. Either the business is going to be started with cash, or the businessman may have something in additional together with the cash. He may have the bank balance, he may have some assets with the help of which he is going to have these things. What are the possible conditions for recording the transactions of purchases?
Okay, purchase has various transactions basically. First transaction is goods purchased for cash only. When we purchase goods for cash, the entry will be purchase account debit to cash account.
Why is it so? Why we are debiting the purchases and why we are crediting the cash? Can you explain this thing in detail to our learners?
Because there is apply debit and credit rule, and because of that goods comes in, so we debit purchases and cash goes out, so we credited cash.
Okay.
The next category is goods purchased and payment made by bank. In this entry, purchase account debit to bank account.
So the only change will be that in place of cash, it will be bank.
Because
in case if the payment is made in cash, it will be cash credit. In case if the payment is made through check, the bank will be credited because the bank balance is reducing. Okay.
The next category is goods purchased on credit. If we goods purchase on credit, then the entry will be passed purchase account debit to party from which we purchase the goods.
Okay.
The fourth category is goods purchased for personal use. In this transaction, the entry will be drawings account debit to cash account.
It means we are not going to debit the word purchases. Why is it so?
Because goods is not used for business purposes.
Okay. In case if they are going to take it for their personal use, if they are purchasing but not for the for business, then in that case we have to use the word drawings. And in case if the goods are purchased for business purpose, then the purchase word will be used. Is there any other category for purchases?
Yes, last category is if we purchase an assets, then asset debit, particular asset debit to cash account. If we purchase building, the entry will be building account debit to cash account.
And in case the furniture is purchased, the furniture will be debited, cash will be credited. If any other item which is considered as an asset will be purchased, then that particular item will be debited, and if the payment is made in cash, cash will be credited. If the payment is made through check, bank will be credited. In case if the assets are purchased on a credit basis, then the creditor or the name of the party from whom the asset is going to be purchased, that particular name is going to be credited. So now all the transactions related to the purchases has been explained to you. Sir, our learners would like to know the transaction related to the sales and how they are going to treat them or going to show them in their books of accounting journal.
Okay, like purchases, sales also have the various category. First is goods sold for cash. If we sold goods for cash, the entry will be cash account debit to sales account. The next category is goods sold and check received. If we receive check, then bank will be debited to sales account. Next category is goods sold on credit. If we sold goods on credit, then particular customer will be debited. Suppose we sold goods to Ram, then Ram will be debited to sales account. Fourth category is any asset sold. In this case, cash will be debited and asset will be credited.
So in case if any asset is going to be sold, that particular asset goes out of the business and it will be credited. And if it is not an asset, simply goods in which we are dealing, then the sales will be credited. As Dr. Arvind has now discussed the entries related to the purchases and sales, there are going to be some entries related to the purchase return and sales return. Whenever there is a transaction related to a purchase return, we have to make a transaction or an entry just opposite to the entry of a purchase. It means whenever we purchase the goods, it is going to be debited, and in case if the goods are going to be returned that we have purchased, in that case purchase return will be credited, and the name of the person to whom the goods were returned back is going to be debited. Now the same case is with the sales return, which is opposite entries related to the sales. Whenever we sold the goods, the name of the customer or the cash is going to be debited and the sales was credited. Here in this case, if the customers are going to return the goods back to us, here the sales return will be debited and the name of the customer from whom the goods were received back is going to be credited. So be very sure and confirm that these entries are simply going to be taken into consideration of the entries of purchase and sales. So in case of purchase, purchases are debited. In case of purchase return is credited. In case of sales, sales was credited, and in case of sales return, the sales return is going to be debited. So what are the possible entries related to the payments if some payments are going to be made?
In payments, we have three categories basically. The first category is payment of any expenses in cash. If we paid any expenses in cash, then the expenses will be debited and cash will be credited. Suppose we paid wages, then wages will be debited and cash will be credited. The second category, if we payment made by check. If anything paid by check, expenses will be debited but credited is bank. Suppose we paid salaries by bank, so the entry will be wages account debit or to bank account. Third point is payment to any party. In this category, we divided this payment into 2 points. One is partial payment and one is full payment. The entry will almost same because we paid cash. That means cash will be going out and the party will be debited. Suppose we paid cash to Ram, that means Ram will be debited and cash will be credited.
Okay. In case if we are going to make the payment to someone and that persons allow us a discount, then what will be the entry for making this kind of payment?
In this category, name of the receiver account will be debit, to bank or to cash or to discount. Discount will be at additional.
So why we are going to credit the discount?
Because discount, in this case, discount is the income for us.
Okay. Sir, our learners have came to know the very basic simple entries which they are going to make at the time of starting up of the business, when the bank account is open, purchases are made, sales are made, something like that. But there are going to be some typical entries also which are basically related to the goods, as goods taken by the proprietor for personal use, or maybe the goods given away as charity, or they may be lost during transaction. Please explain our learners those special entries.
First transaction actually will be goods given away as free samples. If we distributed goods as samples, then advertisement will be debited to purchase account. The next,
why we are going to credit the purchase? So far we are going to debit the purchase. Now what's the reason for crediting the purchases?
because goods is going out.
Okay. So as they are going out at the cost price, not we are not selling them, we are not going to receive anything for cash. That's why we are recording the purchases on the credit side. Fine.
Next category is goods given away as charity. Then charity will be debited to purchase account. Next category is loss by theft. If we have some loss by theft, then loss by theft will be debited to purchase account. If we lost some goods in transit, then loss in transit will be debited and purchase account will be credited.
So it means in all the cases where the goods goes out of the business and we are not going to get anything in return of it, it's not basically the sale, but maybe the goods goes out for charity, or we have they have been lost during the transit, or they have been during the theft we are suffering a loss. In all those cases the goods, the purchases are going to be credited and whatever the item or a transaction related to it will be debited. Fine. Are there going to be anything which is known as a compound entry? If it is so, then what is the meaning of the compound entry?
In single entry or in non-compound entry, one account will be debited or one account will be credited. In compound entry, more than one account will be debited or credited.
Can you give some examples related to this compound entry?
First example is, if on the same date we have cash purchases and credit purchase both, then purchase will be debited and credit to cash and to customer.
Supplier, the one from whom the goods have been taken, that person is going to be credited. So it will be simultaneously. Suppose if someone has purchased the goods for 20,000 rupees, out of which 15,000 are for cash and 5,000 are credit, the total purchase will be debited for 20,000 rupees. Cash will be credited 15,000 rupees as the payment is made for the same, and rupees 5,000 will be credited by the name of the customer supplier from whom the goods has been taken. What other entries could be there?
If on the same date we have cash sales and credit sales both, then for cash sale, cash account will be debited, for credit sale, customer will be debited and we credit to sales.
Okay.
For example, if we sell goods 10,000 for cash and 20,000 from Ram, then cash will be debited for 10,000, Ram will be debited on 20,000 and sales will be credited to 30,000.
Is there any other entry related to a compound entry? Though I hope my learners have quite clear related to the compound entry.
Yes, if we commence business with cash and bank or some other asset.
I think we have already discussed in this matter and we have already shown that if the business started with only cash, then only the cash will be debited and capital will be credited. But if the business is going to be started with more than one asset as cash or a bank balance or some other assets are there, all the assets that have been brought by the businessman during the initial period will be debited and the capital will be credited. Fine, sir. Now learners, as you have already came to know the meaning of the journal entries, its format, its features and how the transactions are going to be recorded in the journal. Side by side we have explained you the meaning of the narration which is supposed to be shown in each and every transaction, in each and every journal entry. And we know the narration is going to be simply the clarification or is going to be the answer of a particular journal entry. We have already explained the meaning of the compound entry, simple entries with lots many examples. Keeping in view all these things, I hope now the topic of journal entries is going to be quite clear to you and it is going to be helpful to you a lot while you are recording the transactions of journal in your books of account. Be very sure that in this there is no separate account. Only the transactions are to be recorded in a chronological order, that is the date wise transactions are recorded in the first book, and that very first book is known as to be the journal. Sir, I am very thankful to you on behalf of NIUS and my own behalf for providing such a useful information to learners. Thank you for being here with us in our studio. Thank you.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने,
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो,
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके